Hey all, and welcome to Discount Bin, a pack of pals reading, digesting, and arguing over fantasy novels in a weekly podcast format. This week we are finishing our book, Best Served Cold by Joe Abercrombie. Like always, we have the usual suspects. I'm Daniel. I'm here with Leonard.
Hello.
Lexi.
Hi.
And Rick.
Hello.
And today, Leonard is starting us off with chapter summaries. So, if you want to take it away.
Part 6, Austria. The Talinese army, now under the command of Prince Foskar and Colonel Rigrat, closed on Austria. On the eve of battle, Nikomo Koska is sitting at the command post while the pair outline the plan for the battle tomorrows. Rigrat announces that the 1,000 swords will lead the attack across the lower river fort, while the Talinese forces cross the upper fort and flank the Austrians. Koska claims that the morale of the mercenary company is very poor after losing two captain generals in quick succession, Monza and Faithful. They are much better suited to the flanking role. Colonel Rigrat is forced to reluctantly agree. Meanwhile, in Austria, Grand Duke Rogan throws a banquet in his great dining hall. Monza sits in the place of honor next to Rogan, while Shivers is relegated to one of the lower tables, brooding and drinking. After all his sacrifice for Monza, he's now an ignored embarrassment. Monza is no happier, thinking on all the time she and Benna would mock these people, and the guilt she feels for turning Shivers in from a good man to a scarred, emotionless brute. Throughout the dinner, Duke Rogan makes constant flirtatious small talk with her. On the lower table, Carlot then Eider sits down next to Shivers and senses his mood, making clever comments about Rogan and Monza sitting together. Shivers isn't stupid and realizes that she's trying to manipulate him, but she shocks him by casually mentioning that Monza and her brother Benna were actually lovers. Later that night, Shivers ends up in an argument with Monza. He confronts Monza about her and Benna. After the argument, Monza storms off to smoke some husk and in her frustration flings the husk pipe from the battlements. On the day of battle, on the eastern shore of the river, Grand Duke Rogan gives a rousing speech to his Austrian soldiers preparing for the engagement to come. Monza gives him little hope, saying he could have attacked long before this. As the Talinese forces cross the lower fort, the Austrian forces meet them in battle with foot and archers. Meanwhile, in the 1,000 swords encampment at the upper fort, Nikomo Koska gives command to the mercenary company to wait. Eventually, Colonel Rigrat storms into the camp to demand that he proceed with the attack. Koska leads him to his tent with Captain Endish. Koska reveals that he has taken money from the Gurkish not to attack. As Rigrat squares up to Koska, First Sergeant Friendly disarms him. Suddenly, Koska inexplicably runs Endish through, and Friendly follows his lead and kills Rigrat. Then Koska runs from the tent, claiming that Endish gave his life to save him from Rigrat. Back on the eastern shore, Monza is just wondering why Koska hasn't attacked, when a Sipanese army suddenly appears on the horizon. Gloating at his own cleverness, Rogan explains that he brought Chancellor Sotorius over to his side, after Monza killed Oso's son in Sipani, leaving him no choice. And thanks to his Gurkish friends, they managed to buy off the 1,000 swords. However, the smugness is soon swept from his face as the Austrian forces at the lower fort begin to break. Duke Rogan considers retreat, but Monza scoffs at his caution. She gathers the cavalry and charges into the fray. In the middle of the melee, Monza goes down in the river, but Shivers drags her up and dives back into the fight, axe swinging. Back in the 1,000 swords encampment, Koska watches as Monza's charge has turned the tide of battle. He then orders the mercenaries to rout the rest of Duke Orso's army. In the glow of their glorious victory, Monza and Shivers are enjoying a prolonged bout of post-battle coitus. However, it isn't with each other. Monza is with Grand Duke Rogan and Shivers with Carlot Den Eider. Afterwards, Rogan crows about his victory and contemplates crowning himself king of all Styria. To do so, he plans to use Monza's popularity to subjugate talents. Nevertheless, he considers that Shivers has become a problem and feels he's now a danger to Monza. However, Monza brutally tells him to never threaten the Northmen. Meanwhile, Eider, in bed with Shivers, works on persuading him to murder Monza in order to save her from the wrath of Arch-Lector Glocka. The next day, Monza and Shivers visit Koska's encampment. To smooth things over between Monza, Koska has Friendly take her to the gift he has for her, Count Foskar. Duke Urso's younger son begs for his life, and Monza can't bring herself to kill the young man who really played no part in Benna's death. However, Shivers steps forward and brutally smashes Foskar's head to a pulp with his bare hands. In Talons, Morvia waits to meet with Grand Duke Urso, who is finishing up with representatives from the Union. Talons can expect no help from his son-in-law. When Morvia is finally ushered forward, he gives a long history of his many former achievements. However, Morvia's face drops as Urso quickly proves just as bloodthirsty for revenge as his former employer. He has his own list of 7 powerful people he once did. Monza Caro Mucato, Nicomo Koska, Countess Cotarda, Duke Lerosio, First Citizen Patine, Chancellor Sotorius, and Grand Duke Rogon. Meanwhile, Shank lurks in the shadowy streets of Ephoia, outside a nondescript townhouse. Creeping closer, looking inside, he sees 3 red-haired children. Suddenly, a voice calls out to him from above. She drops down to the ground, takes a step towards him, and kisses the long-absent father of her children. She leads him into the house where the children are somewhat nervous, greet their father, then they take their children upstairs and sing them to sleep.
You should be an author. That was very well written.
I
love nice
favorite part.
adjectives and very descriptive. I enjoyed that.
My
most
favorite
of
part
it is actually
Lifted from
half
the
of
book.
this is from the wiki. I edited a lot of it. I have to
Oh, okay.
I have to shorten. There's actually a lot more fluff. I think the
Yeah.
wiki tried to be really fancy with the descriptions. I cut out a lot of the fluff, and try to get straight to the point because it's very long.
Was the choice of coitus yours or the wiki?
It is definitely the wikis. I had to. So when I was rewriting that sentence, I needed to understand exactly how coitus would be used in the sentence. I didn't want to butcher the word, but I wanted to keep the word in there as well.
Well done.
So
It made me chuckle.
it was not my choice of word, unfortunately. But I learned something new. I learned how to use it now.
Nice. I guess we could probably start this off with what did everyone think about the potential confirmation of one of our guesses in that they were sleeping together, brother and sister.
I can tell you, when I heard that, I was like, fuck. You guys were right. No, why is this happening? I was so upset.
I mean,
I'm still of the opinion this didn't confirm it any more than anything we'd read before, right? It's just another person who's not Monza saying that they were fucking.
Exactly.
And that's what we've been reading all book. So I didn't feel any differently about this.
yeah, I mean, even the first chapter, right? If you read between the lines, between the exchange, between Monza and Benna, they sound a lot closer than just siblings.
Okay, so Leonard, you're in the camp that they're fucking. Sorry, that they had at one point participated in coitus.
They're coiling.
I don't think that's
Not
the
like
word.
that.
That's the word.
That is-
Period.
It is now. It's the podcast special word, coiling.
Yep. We need the
we do not need a podcast.
word of the day.
For all the kids watching, the word of the day
So
is
now when
coiling.
people start talking coiling, oh, you follow Discount Bin too? Yeah, that's where we heard it.
That's it. Man.
Well, there's our clickbait.
Yeah. I do think
I'm in the camp that they weren't, and that is a rumor. Daniel, I'm kind of with you as far as this definitely wasn't an actual confirmation. This was a woman trying to manipulate Shivers.
yeah. I for the record am in the boat that they probably were.
Gotcha.
But nothing's confirmed, and yeah, I don't think it ever will be confirmed or denied by Monza.
Probably not.
Although it's kind of a weird thing to not deny.
Yeah, but
But she's probably been hearing it her whole life.
not only probably been hearing it her whole life, and really doesn't really necessarily seem like in her character to sit down there and give it even the credence of I'm going to defend myself against this. No, that shit's bullshit. I'm the fucking leader of the free world, or whatever. I'm murder things. I just care at this point. I care about revenge. Who cares?
Yeah. I think it's because we had just talked about it the last podcast, and then it came up, and then for me that was just like, oh god damn it, this is it. It's not like confirmed, but for me that was like confirmation that this is what the author wants us to be thinking, and these seeds have been planted to be the
For sure.
lead us to this.
I mean, she also pointed out that everyone knew, right? It wasn't like she's the only one with the information. You know, it sounded like if Shivers wanted to confirm it with anybody else but Monza,
Which
they would probably
again,
have-
for me, that makes it still sound like it's a rumor now, right?
Yeah.
Like
It's
it's
a
not
very
like
widespread rumor.
right, like it's
Yeah.
one of those like I'm not gonna go around saying yeah I'm fucking my brother, you know, like that's not really a thing you'd probably do. You probably don't sit there and confirm it. You probably just like yeah whatever. Again, been hearing it for her whole life, or hearing it at least for the last couple of years.
Yeah.
It's like
Mhm.
yeah whatever, okay, sure.
So one thing I didn't especially like about this chapter, or I thought was a little too easy, was Casca maneuvering the Thousand Swords out of danger. He just
It was a little convenient, right?
yeah, like if any regular royalty who hires a mercenary crew is going to be like, well, that's great that you don't want to be in danger, but too fucking bad. I'm paying you a bunch of money. Go down there and do your job, you know?
Yeah.
But like they were kind of on the defensive, right,
Offensive, right?
or offensive.
Yeah.
Well, the idea was he needed them. I'm sorry, I don't mean like defensive. Like he needed them to be there. He needed them as a force. This is a mercenary group that could have just left.
Yeah, but then they don't get paid.
I felt like
Then
It was
they don't
way
win
too-
their fight.
it was way too convenient for so many factors. So like it felt like one of those setups that Monza is screwed, but now that's like luck
Yeah.
Yeah.
sprinkled all over. Oh yeah,
But
we're
that's
gonna
her-
make this clever gambit.
That's her whole story, and not to do a little bit of foreshadowing, but like that's it. She's lucky. That's literally her superpower this entire fucking time.
Yeah.
Like
A lot of it is like foreshadowed and stuff, and the fact that these people, you know, the whole thing that took place in what was it, Sapani or whatever, and the Sapani king or regent or whatever they're called was trying to stay neutral. Like it wasn't luck like where she just tripped over this thing. It was luck that was, you know, makes sense within the story, I guess.
Did you guys think about what Casca's motives were when that happened? Like, was he in it to get revenge against the captains, or was he in it to help Monza indirectly while pretending not to? Like, what was his end goal?
I think both, definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, he starts killing his captains, obviously, because he wants revenge on them for betraying him. And he also tells Monza, like, you know, I love you. And, like, they've been together, you know, since she was a kid.
Oh.
And so I think, you know, he actually likes Monza. Yeah. Well, I don't know if he likes her, but he loves her. Possibly like a father, possibly
Yeah.
less like a father.
Yeah.
I like that. Yeah, and then the more problematic. Yeah.
So, did you guys feel bad for Foscar? Damn.
You should ask somebody in particular.
I'm gonna guess no. That just felt like a big no.
Yeah. Nah.
Wow. What if?
I think it's because we just didn't know him. Like, right? We didn't have.
Yeah, there's no.
If he had been a character we'd been following the whole time and he was
Yeah.
like genuinely a good guy, which he might have been, then I would have felt bad. But he's just some stranger, just another stranger dying.
Well, like, see, if Foscar was a female character, would you have felt bad?
I would have. That's true.
Damn.
Damn.
So sexist.
It's a joke, you guys.
I know.
I actually felt a little bad for him. Like
Did
it sounded like Monza was willing to put the sword down, right? And then she was just went in and, no, dude, I need to get paid. So, yeah, let me just break this guy's skull. That felt a bit awful. Like it felt like one of those deaths that wasn't necessary.
I felt more bad for Shivers because this just really shows that Shivers is put aside this I want to be a better man.
Hmm.
I'm not sure that was his motivation either. What did you say, Leonard?
Shivers acted as if it was like, oh yeah, we're just going
'Cause he
running
wants
down
to
the
get
kill
paid.
list. He didn't specifically say he wanted to get paid, but he said that want to go. You know, he sit the count out. So it was as if this is a job, I'm just gonna do it. So I took it as a, let's just finish it so I can get paid and get out of here. But I also felt like it was one of those. I really don't like it when there's like a meaningless death, especially when in that situation where this whole thing is about her revenge, right? And she chose not to kill him. I don't think he needed to go, and I didn't think he deserved to go. So it left a sour taste in my mouth.
And I think you're supposed to feel that way. And I think that's what makes it all the more that Shivers is not a good guy.
I felt, and I don't know if there's really anything in the book to back this up, but I felt his motivation was more like, we set out, I lost my morality, I lost my eye, I've gone through all this pain to do this, kill these 7 people, and now you're going to back down? And he was just like, hell no.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But how many people these had, thinking back, how many has she killed?
Personally? By her hands?
Yeah. 1? At this point?
Just one. Just
one.
Just one.
At that point, probably a lot more, right?
No. Out of her 7, out of her 7 people she's trying to kill, her goal of getting her revenge, she's actually only killed 1 person so far.
The first guy, right?
Yeah. Actually, and even then, was it even
No.
her, or was it?
She killed Ariel as well, right? She slashed Ariel's throat and threw him out the window.
Oh yeah.
Wasn't it her?
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Oh, that's right. I forgot.
Yeah, Ariel was her doing too. So the first guy, I forgot what his name, Gaba.
Did she actually
the
kill
bodyguard.
The first guy? She bashed him in, but was it actually
I'm pretty sure he was his brain. Like, it was a pretty gory scene.
Yeah,
I friendly finish him off.
No,
I kind of remember.
I'm pretty sure once I finish him off. That hammer to the head.
I just remember it.
You haven't had a hammer to the head before, whatever.
So Gaba and then Ariel, the banker just died of poison, so definitely not her. 3.
The stuck-up dude was stuck by his favorite statue.
Oh yeah.
I don't remember any of these names. Which
the
is
water,
also...
the water wheel.
Another bus attack.
Faithful as well. Faithful
Yeah.
was her too.
And like, she wanted to save Faithful.
Did she kill Faithful?
I mean, not.
If it wasn't for her, she wouldn't be there or dead.
Oh, well, I mean, okay.
She was directly responsible for
She was indirectly responsible. She could have. She just didn't save him.
Very directly responsible.
Anyways.
Yes.
I think this is more about Shivers in this. I think this death is more about Shivers than it is about the person who's dying or Monza.
Oh yeah. I like what they did with Shivers.
I don't.
I think I said in the first episode this was kind of where he's gonna go though. He was too friendly. Like, he was too for someone named Friendly in the group. He was way too friendly.
At this point in the final part of the final 2 pages that describes Shank beating his children, do you guys know who the wife was at the time?
Yeah.
Really?
I think they say her name.
Really? I reread that chapter. I didn't see her name in there. I felt like the book deliberately avoided mentioning her name.
Oh, I definitely knew who it was before, or in that scene. I thought they said her name.
I'm pretty sure they said her name.
Okay, I might have missed it because I reread that several times, and I was comparing it with the chapter summary. Chapter summary just threw her name in there, but I reread the book for her name in it, and I couldn't find her name in that description from when Shank got home to like the end of it. I felt like the book was deliberately taking her name out. So I excluded her name from the chapter summary because it felt like it was kind of a different tale for the book.
Gotcha. Leonard, what do you think of the battle scene?
The one with Monza in it or the one without?
The one with Monza.
Wasn't very interesting, honestly. It felt like they squeezed the battle scene in there, or the Order squeezed the battle scene in there so he could get Monza into some action. It felt like that battle scene didn't really contribute to the grand scheme of things. It felt like they already had the Duke's army surrounded. I don't think her charging in decided on whether they win or lose that battle. At least it felt like it was very deliberately added just so she got some action,
Oh, sure. It did feel like, I mean, the military experts in the book thought that they needed to charge, so presumably they needed to charge, or they are put in a much worse position.
It's gonna make a good scene in the movie.
You have to you have to attack one direction, right? Like this.
Yeah.
It happens in all the MOBAs all the time too. You know, when you get a team surrounded, the surrounded team needs to pick one direction and break through that direction. Like it.
Yeah.
Even in video gaming, it happens all the time.
I thought it was an interesting just telling of a battle where you don't really know who's on your side. You're kind of like, she's on a horse. She's just like, I'm killing anyone who's not on a horse. And Shivers is running around and he's just like, don't kill anyone on a horse, you know, because they're on our side kind of thing. Just, I thought it did a good job of showing the chaos of what a battle might be like.
I wonder where Foscar was during all that. They kind of just inserted his capture in there rather than where he was throughout the entire battle. I feel like with the kind of chaos where your army is surrounded and slaughtered, the commander is very likely to be one of those slaughtered as well, right?
Well, I think the commander is generally just in the back, so I think he was just hanging out in the back in a tent or like, you know, maybe on his horse watching it. And I imagine because it was Casca who led him there, so I think he was on like the Casca side of the battle, and so the Thousand Swords probably just went in, wiped people out, and grabbed him. I don't think generally like the prince goes in and fights.
General.
Yeah. Well,
I get it.
Monza fights.
Yeah, and I don't think she normally fights either.
Yeah.
Sounds like she does though.
Well, I don't think in grand battles like this, I think, at least not when she was like the leader of the Thousand Swords.
Doesn't make a lot of sense to send your management to the front lines. Do we want to go to the last chapter?
Yeah, let's do it.
Last part. Alright. Part 7, Talons. Monza rides into Talons to a hero's welcome, having been dressed up by Grand Duke Rogan to look like the very goddess of war. Grand Duke also has been besieged in his fortress of Fonte Zarmo, while Monza is to be crowned the new Grand Duchess of Talons. After she is crowned, Monza gives an awkward but heartfelt speech saying that the years of blood are over and promises peace. The crowd love it. Meanwhile, lurking in the crowd is Morvia. He takes aim on Monza with his blowpipe, but his arm is jostled by one of the jubilant onlookers and he misses. In his frustration, he stabs the man with a poison needle. Sometime later, Monza and Shivers ride to Fonte Zarmo, which the Thousand Swords hold under siege. They approach Koska, who updates them on the siege. They've been sending suicidal scaling parties against the walls to keep the defenders busy, while simultaneously digging a tunnel under the fortress's walls. Ishri has provided 24 barrels of Gurkish blasting powder to bring down the strongest walls in all of Styria. Castle Morvia has been trying to assassinate Grand Duke Rogan and all his allies, but so far with little success. His latest plan is to kill Duke Rogan during his coronation as King of Styria. He disguises himself as a carpenter and makes his way to the Senate House looking for a good place to hide. Hearing some men coming, he takes refuge in an empty storeroom. However, the men carry a heavy box into the storeroom and lock it and him inside. Morvia is cursing his luck until he peeks inside the box. It's only the crown of Styria. With a smile, he starts painting the crown with a deadly poison he called Preparation Number 12. He's not taking any chances this time. It's a poison not even he is immune to. Meanwhile, in Fonte Zarmo, with the tunnel ready, Koska and Caesarea creep down the tunnel to set off the Gurkish powder. As Caesarea makes the final preparations, Koska suddenly clubs him on the back of the head and flees with a lantern. However, he stumbles in the tunnel and his lantern falls and gutters out. Cursing his luck, suddenly Caesarea stumbles towards him with his own lantern. This time making sure, Koska stabs him through the chest, causing Caesarea's lantern to fall and sets off the fuse alight. Koska scrambles through the tunnel and escapes just in time to avoid the massive explosion. When the smoke finally clears, the mitre outer walls of Fonte Zarmo are gone. Back in Talons, Monza and the other great leaders of Styria grudgingly place their part in Grand Duke Rogan's grand coronation. Monza is dressed to the nines, all in white silk with long sleeves and a high collar and gloves to hide her many scars. The Duke stands around the throne as Rogan makes his grand entrance, while each of the 5 hold one corner of the crown. They raise the crown and place it on Rogan's head. Moments later, Livrosio starts coughing. Cotorda stares down at her reddening hand, Sartorius starts trembling, and Patine bends forwards and gives an anguished groan. Meanwhile, King Rogon's noble, pompous speech sputters out as he pitched onto his face, dead as a doornail. As chaos ensues, Monza stares at the glove that hides her maimed hand, which has just saved her life. After an exhausting night in Talons, Monza and Shivers go to Fontezarmo, where the final assault on the inner walls of the fortress are prepared. Monza begs Koska to not abandon her now, and to her surprise, he agrees. Even though she once betrayed him, he still loves her and knows her ruthlessness is feigned. She really is a better person than he is. As she leaves, Koska orders Friendly to protect Monza during the assault. When the mercenary company's assault begins, most of the men in the initial charge were slaughtered. Nevertheless, the defenders are spread too thin, and eventually the ladders are raised and some of the mercenaries get to the top of the walls. Monza and Shivers are in the third wave of the attack. Monza ushers them on through the chaos within the fortress. However, Shivers halts and Monza stares at him. He is sick of Monza's scorn and turns on her, drawing his axe ready to kill her. Suddenly, Friendly bowls into him and the pair plunge over the balcony to the kitchen down below. Monza continues to follow the company through the carnage to Grand Duke Orso's private study. There she finds a group of mercenaries eagerly bursting into the room for booty. She follows them inside, but 7 of Orso's personal guards easily cut down the mercenaries with flatbows. Monza is forced to take refuge behind a heavy table. Meanwhile, in the kitchen, Shivers and Friendly set on each other, with shield and axe and cleaver and dagger. The brutal fight continues through the kitchen into a domed pavilion. Both covered in blood, Friendly eventually slips, and Shivers pounces on him. Although Friendly manages to stab him in the leg, Shivers continues to pummel him. Reaching for his axe to put an end to him, a mysterious stranger suddenly appears, Shank. Shank grabs Shivers and flings him across the room, where he crumples insensible. The barely conscious Friendly watches as Shank casually continues up the stairs to Grand Duke Orso's private study. Outside the walls, Moria sneaks through the mercenaries' encampment to Koska's command post. There he poisons all the wine. However, Koska and Victus get into a violent standoff of their own, with Koska keen to rid himself of the last of the senior captains who betrayed him. Victus eventually gets the upper hand with a flatbow trained on Koska. Gloating, Victus takes a swig of wine and immediately clutches his stomach. Desperate tussle ensues for the flatbow. When Moria emerges from his hiding place, he finds the pair collapsed on the ground. Assuming they've both died of the poison, he cautiously approaches with a poison needle in hand. However, Koska suddenly stabs him in the groin, grabbing his hand, pushing the needle into Moria's neck. As Moria slowly dies, Koska gloats that he didn't drink the wine, and in fact he has abstained ever since Sipani thanks to Moria's mocking. His flask only contains goat's milk. Moria finally dies, killed by his own agent. Back in Orso's private study, the Grand Duke recognizes Monza and calls for his personal guard to wait. He grudgingly congratulates her for destroying everything he's built. When Monza snaps back that he deserves it for killing her brother, Orso tells her that he knows that she and Benna were working to usurp his duchy. They both slowly realize the truth, that Benna had worked on this alone without Monza's knowledge. Suddenly, Shank casually steps into the room. Seeing him, Orso orders him to kill her, but Shank just offers Monza her ring back and kills all of his personal bodyguards. He had been following her all across Styria not to kill her, but to protect her. Monza calmly stands and walks up to Orso and stabs him through the heart. 2 months later, Monza is now settled into Fontezarmo as Grand Duchess of Talons and pregnant with a child of former King Rogon of all Styria. Well, officially, that is. It could also be Shivers. The city-state is now thriving, with merchants flooding into the city as the only stable states in Styria. Osper and Baal are at war, as are Muris and Sipani. There's plague in Afoya, a great fire in Nicante, and uproar and turmoil in Peranti and Musilia. Only Talons and Borletta under former Duke Cantane's Youngnis are untroubled. The one problem in Talons is border skirmishes with neighbouring Ethrisani. Disregarding her previous promise of peace, Monza decisively orders that Ethrisani be put to siege by the Talonese army. Shiloh Vitari, who has now taken a role as one of Monza's counselors, points out that many people in Styria are blaming Monza for the death of King Rogon and the others. Monza suggests spreading stories and laying the blame on Custom Warrior. After meeting with her counselors, Monza receives a visit from the representative of Valiant and Bulk, Yoru Sulfur. He offers Talons the backing of the old and respected banking house. However, Monza refuses him, wary as supporting either Bias or Kalu in the ancient rivalry, as she refused Isri just days before. Sulfur's politeness and sweet smiles quickly harden into thinly veiled threats until Shank silently, abruptly appears next to Sulfur. Shank and Sulfur bristle at each other. Clearly there's a long and sordid history between this pair. Monza dismisses Sulfur, echoing Shank's mantra, she does not kneel. Afterwards, Monza asks Shank why he has helped her. As he remains cryptic, he reveals that he seeks his own vengeance on Bias, and now destroys everything he tries to achieve. Shank healed Monza, intending to use her as a pawn against Grand Duke Orso and Valiant and Bulk, but she gets away. However, she fulfills Shank's plan all on her own. In the end, Friendly and Koska make their way across Styria to safety in Lucilia. Grand touches Monza has provided Friendly with orders, allowing him to be in prison again. Koska tries to talk him out of it, but Friendly is sick of the outside world and wants to get back to the order of safety. However, when they arrive, they find that the prison has been abandoned in the chaos throughout Styria. Koska slaps him on the back and invites him to join in pressing his claim for the Duchy of Vicereine. Friendly unenthusiastically agrees, while hoping safety will reopen one day. Meanwhile, in the dungeons beneath Fontezarmo, Shivers had been imprisoned and is expecting death. However, he gets a visit from Monza. To his bemusement, she tells him he is free to go and tosses her ring at him. As Shivers walks out to freedom, he smiles at the thought of getting out of Styria and back to the north.
Oh my gosh, shanked.
Yeah, I was also called it
He's
almost
Terminator.
verbatim. Almost
He's
verbatim.
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh.
He's Terminator, sent back to protect Monza.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
He does
That's
feel
why-
like a Terminator.
This is why I think we need to have official predictions that we write down, because we do throw out kind of a lot of predictions that are meant as bullshit, and
The Shank
End
one
up
definitely was
happening?
not. I actually was adamant about that one.
Oh,
'Cause
yeah.
I was fairly
that
adamant.
Shanked was the bone collector.
Yeah. Because I thought he was
Okay.
going to come back, and it felt like such a throwaway character to not come back to. I didn't know exactly the specifics, but
Yeah. I just had a feeling that he was going to be helping Monza because every time he's encountered people who are trying to kill Monza, he's killed them.
yeah,
It
exactly.
it gave me the idea that he's trying to eliminate all her threats rather than her.
I mean, it's just the one time, right?
It was still enough of a time where this guy's clearly a pro. Why is he just killing all the people who are trying to kill her and not kill her?
Because he wants
Yeah.
the full reward.
Well, that's, yeah.
He doesn't
Oh,
strike me as a
sure.
guy who cares about the reward.
Well, I think that's implied. Otherwise we wouldn't
He
have this
asked-
amazing yield, right?
He asked for a ton of money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Sure.
it's implied that he is somebody that cares a lot about the money.
Or he's cocky as fuck, and he's like, I know you're going to pay this, and I'm just going to make you pay more than you want to.
You know, now thinking about it, do you think he could have just killed Orso in that room along with everyone else?
He could have probably
Well,
killed Orso any time, but that's not revenge. Not in the sweet sense of irony that this book is facing us to deal with, forcing us to deal with the war.
Oh, there's so much beautiful irony in this last chapter.
I get that this is taking place in another world, and they want you to read the other books, but I feel like they're like, read more to find out was a little too strong at the end of this book.
Yeah.
So I did just look it up because I was curious. All right, so first, I was pretty sure Monza lived the entire time because when we were in Des Moines, Lexi's husband mentioned how he's read several of the Monza books. And so I was like, okay, well, I knew this was the first one. And so I just looked it up, and this is the only one where she's got the point POV, but there's 5 other ones where she's mentioned in it.
Oh.
I was kind of hoping, by the way, that this, like, it turned out she was actually dead the whole time. Part of me was like, bone collector guy, necromancer. And that's why she's not dying during any of this time. She gets the shit kicked out of her for being half dead already, and she's still fine. I mean, she's in pain, she's struggling,
Right.
but she's not dying.
That would have been really cool.
Yeah, it's like, oh no, you've been dead the whole time, bud.
I mean, this whole book didn't seem like there was a lot of fantasy elements to it, right? Until Shang showed up. He's like the only out of the ordinary character here.
There's not a ton of
Not
magic
high-
in this world.
It's
That
not
one-
high fantasy, but it's still fantasy.
Right, there's that one lady who had magic too.
Ishri.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, hers you could probably explain that she's probably pretty clever with chemicals or powder, right? But Shang physically splits people's head with his fingers, like this.
Maybe he's been doing it didn't skip finger day, whatever. He's just fucking strong.
He's very Neo in this.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's,
Matrix Neo.
Can we talk about Moravir and Casca?
I love what they did with Morvir. I love his both of them are incredibly lucky or unlucky all the fucking time. Like they roll 1s and 20s 100% of the time. That's all they do.
Because guys, like I actually kept my promise. I stopped drinking. Oh my god, that was.
It's like, well, yeah, because Moravir dies to Casca being sober because of Moravir's like
Taunt.
harassment. It's so beautiful.
I like how both times it was like, oh, there's the crown. Oh, look, there's all this booze. Like happened to be in the right spot at the right time, and then he wasn't in the right spot at the right time. But
The crown scene was so funny. I thought when everybody died and then they released the doves. I don't know. It just had the funniest imagery in my head. That was like my second favorite scene of the book after Friendly screaming, "Apologize, my fucking dice."
yeah, that was pretty good.
Oh man.
Casca just murking his own guys again right before the giant explosion stuff was fun. The whole waiting. I don't know. There was a couple just really fun scenes throughout this last chapter. Least of which was probably Orso's actual death was a little again lackluster, like kind of a lot of them. It's like this is what you get. Poke.
Yep.
I was kind of hoping she wouldn't kill him, and then be like the bigger person, be like, well, I wasn't going to betray you, and I'm still not going to, because by this point, she knows he wasn't really in the wrong. There was no reason for him to think that she wasn't in on it. And
okay, but then she's murdered like all of these powerful people that were on his side. Like she doesn't get out of this.
Yeah, that's true.
I still think she should have thrown him down the mountain twice.
I like how she's uber careful, by the way, at the end too. Like, I don't want anyone to have revenge against me now. We're gonna not kill these guys. Just in case this is actually Shiver's baby, we're gonna let him go. Here's a stone to prove you might be the father sometime in the next book or two.
Hmm.
Do you want to know something else I read on the wiki?
Is that right? Am I close?
Is that?
So this is Monza Mercado's wiki, and it says, spoiler alert, it has her son listed. Japo Mon Rogant Mercado. So kind of named after Rogant, I guess.
I think they have to. I mean, the official name is
right.
Rogon, right?
Yeah.
Japo was her father?
Yes.
Or is that... Okay.
Yep, her father.
I'm impressed that her bits and pieces still work.
I know! Okay, yeah, thank you. Like, pregnancy is no fucking joke, right? And like this...
We all been there.
Yeah. Let me tell you about it.
Monza has plot armor.
She does.
Does she though? Her plot armor actually is kind of awful. Like, it keeps her alive, barely, through the entire thing. So not only this, that baby's coming out fucked up. She's been on drugs her whole pregnancy.
Seriously?
Well, I think it's still early. And like she was getting off him towards the end, and she was still pretty early in the pregnancy, and there's like a 2-month skip before we discovered that. So
then fair.
The flashback to the Capriel slaughter. So she comes back, she finds Benna asleep with a husk pipe next to him, wakes him up, and he just starts sobbing and like, oh, I didn't know that. I told them not to, go kill everyone. It felt like very much like he was just trying to play her, and like. We've seen people under the influence of husk and they don't just wake up like instantly and are like aware of everything